Hi everyone, I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am here with Robert Steele, and we are doing a very unusual kind of Q&A here, and I'm going to let Robert take over. So go ahead, Robert.
Well, Kerry Cassidy, let me say first, I've been enormously impressed by everything you've done over your career. I have seen all of those who have slandered you, as I have been slandered recently by the Zionists. And I absolutely embrace and support everything you've done. What I have decided to do, in light of the recent hit job on me with respect to Mars, there is a colony on Mars. There are 10,000 people there. They're never coming home. NASA lies a lot, okay? What I've decided to do is work with you. I'm going to ask 13 questions. You get 4 minutes to answer each question. And that's the last time I will discuss this until either President Trump empowers me or I replace him. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first question, 4 minutes. How did you get started in Project Camelot?
I picked up a consumer-grade camcorder. I was a frustrated movie maker. I had worked in Hollywood for 19 years and tried to get projects off the ground, mainly sci-fi movies that would tell the secrets in a fictional premise. And I picked up a consumer-grade camcorder and I decided to go to UFO conferences and start to investigate. I had been researching on the internet and writing screenplays as well. I basically reached a glass ceiling, you could call it, in Hollywood. Couldn't get into the big boys game. And so I basically decided to make my own short and documentaries. And so I went to these conferences. I put a camera in front of people's faces. I had a background in journalism from college, and also sort of heavily steeped in Eastern philosophy and political science. And basically asked the good questions like, have you seen a UFO? And I got amazing answers.
What I hear you saying, and this is very important, is that by working the fringes and the alternative media and the people who were not mainstream, you actually got at the truth that the government was seeking to hide.
Yes, and I also worked for JPL NASA as a contractor right before I started Camelot. So I also had some, you might call it quasi-insider access, and that showed me a lot. And I sort of fell in love with NASA, the good intentions of NASA, but I was shocked by how behind the times they really were and what the affront agency they really were.
Would you say that there are many, many buildings that belong to NASA that absolutely should be inspected by the public?
Well, that gets into how deep we want to bring the public into the secret space program. I can definitely tell you that there are lots of secret goings on NASA bases, underground bases, on and off the planet. NASA has a good side and a bad side, like all organizations.
That's excellent. Second question. What is the secret space program, and where are we on a secret government of Earth that all governments are subordinate to?
Okay, well, the secret space program is made up of basically paperclip scientists that came over after World War II. That is the Nazis, ex-Nazis, and Britain and America, top officials in government, agencies, the usual suspects, CIA, NRO, etc. The best way to visualize the secret space program and the secret government, which is unified behind the scenes, and it is made up primarily of Russia, the United States, Britain, and other countries such as France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand,
China.
Norway.
Is China part of this?
China has their own secret space program, and India also attempts to have theirs. However, I believe at times we work with the people from India, and at times with China, but not very often from what I'm getting. There is a competition going on behind the scenes. There's also a split within the secret government and within the whole Black Project secret space program. So primarily,
if you had to guess how much money a year, whether within the US government budget or outside the US government budget, how much money a year would you say is being spent on both the secret space program and intraterrestrial or underground facilities associated with the secret space program? Ballpark figure, just in the nearest trillion.
Well, I am not great with funds, money, but I can tell you that the disclosures of Lord Blackheath in the House of Lords, talking about what was in essence, let's see, trillions, 50 trillion and more, trillions and trillions. In fact, we're talking about a rabbit hole financially that is pretty much never ending. In essence, when I talk about the NRO emblem of the octopus sitting on the world, what you're talking about is a host-parasite relationship. So all the money made here, drugs, child trafficking, human trafficking, organ trafficking, you're talking about high-yield trading programs. You're talking about Pure Heart Investments is one of the names that you can put out there. And it all trickles down in essence and off planet. So we're even talking about gold being taken off planet in runways in South Africa, for example, to feed other civilizations on other planets, to also feed the coffers of what in essence are the Anunnaki. I also believe that our secret space programs are reporting to probably some key Anunnaki and off-world races that are actually lodged down in Antarctica at this time as part of the Nazi base that was there.
All right, let's hold that because we have another 10 questions. So the third question is how and when, or when and how. I mean, I frankly was surprised when I took this hit. I had always known the Nazis were in the CIA. And I had always known they had sponsored torture and mind control and so forth. But frankly, I hadn't thought much about NASA. NASA is now in my headlights. So let's talk about Nazis at NASA. And let's talk about the degree to which the Nazis have done things that the American public would absolutely not be happy with if they knew about it.
Well, the bottom line with NASA and the secret space program and why it should matter to Americans and the world in general is that their money is going and being funneled right into these programs. And their children are also being used, abused, trained, segregated. They pick only the creme de la creme and bring them into the projects to work as scientists, engineers, to work on and off planet, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of my whistleblowers are those types of children who grew up in the program, were spotted at a very young age. So we're talking about at NASA, Wernher von Braun, the usual suspects dealing with, Debus. These people were running NASA for many, many years, all during the Apollo space program, for example. You can look at the work of Clark McClellan to see.
What kind of person today is torturing people, growing hybrid humans, doing this kind of atrocity?
Well, first of all, you've got a lot of black projects. These are experiments that are put together by scientists. You got to understand the philosophy of why there is a secret space program, which has to do with creating a humanity 3.0. So if they are growing, organs, they're growing nano, they're doing super soldiers and creating all of these incredible hybrid humans, bringing in more ET DNA and doing genetic engineering of humanity. It's all geared to going out to space, to conquering space, to being the civilization on top when we greet other civilizations out there. And so this is an ongoing circumstance that we're part of already. We are part of a galactic community. These are not just
we're gonna get into that. We have a very carefully
real.
planned program here. So let's hold back here a second. Now, number one, Congress has just been asked to fund a new Space Corps, which to me looks like a budget building exercise that is completely out of touch with what's going on in the secret space program. So should Congress perhaps say no?
Okay, I saw that article and I see that Pence is running sort of interference on this. I have to say that, look, I have to say that they're way behind the times. That this is just yet another ploy to misdirect the public into thinking that we don't have bases on Mars and the moons of Saturn and Jupiter and so on. That we aren't going interstellar at this time. You got to understand, we've been doing this since the 1940s. I have witnesses. I've got ex-military. I've got ex-CIA.
I understand that, Kelly. Stay with me. Stay with me. So what President Donald Trump should understand from this is that Mike Pence is not only stabbing him in the back with respect to planning to run for president, Mike Pence is stabbing our president in the back with respect to the secret space program. Yes or no? Just yes or no?
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right, let's go on. Let's go on to number 4.
I would say that Pence is kind of the golden boy, that they're a portion of the secret space program. Again, remember, there's a split. So there's a portion that wants disclosure and is probably responsible for some of the comments you have made in the press up to now.
Nobody is responsible.
And I do believe that Trump,
in the press. Nobody. I speak for myself. Now,
okay, I appreciate
that. Let's go on to number 4. Who are the best of the whistleblowers? And what is their psychology and their ethical disposition? 4 minutes.
Okay, so we have Arthur Neumann, who was the original Project Camelot whistleblower, had worked in the secret space program for pretty much of his life. And I can't name all of the agencies that he worked for. Some of these are very, very secret, but I know them. And I can tell you that he was cross-disciplinary, so he had the big picture, which is quite a wonderful thing. A lot of these people don't know what the left hand is doing, so it's a very much of a sort of a tunnel, what they call organization in some ways.
It's stovepipe.
Need to know, yes. And so this operates within the secret space program, just as it always did within the military and NASA. But beyond that,
whistleblowers multiply.
I have to finish my whistleblowers, okay? Pete Peterson, primary. He worked over 40 years of his life. He is a sort of the original Doctor Who, if you will. Okay, he is behind lots of the experimentation within MK Ultra way back when, the creation of the super soldiers.
You gotta go faster. You have to go faster.
Okay, Robert Dean, Command Sergeant Robert O'Dean, who is an old boy from the SHAPE headquarters, who has disclosed incredible amounts of information.
Okay, just names. Go.
Okay, well, no, I mean, actually, it just.
Stay with me here. Do it my way. Go. Names.
All right. Well, there's Brian O'Leary, who is an astronaut who was supposed to go to Mars and was basically killed recently. Yes. Gordon Novell, also killed recently, who is creating an ARV, alien reproduction vehicle. Okay, I don't have a list in front of me.
Stop there. Look, you've done enough. The whole point of this executive summary is to tell people that I believe you, and that everything you're doing merits attention, and that they should research everything you're saying.
Absolutely.
We are not going to cover all the bases.
That's for
Question 5. What is the relationship between the deep state pedophilia, Satanism, and the reptilian agenda? And I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Okay, so we're basically talking about what's called orgone in the West and Kundalini energy in the East. This is yogis raising this energy to become enlightened, etc. This can be stimulated through sexual intercourse with both males and females, especially anal intercourse. And this is what's going on with the secret space program, with a lot of the higher echelons where the money comes from. We're talking about sort of the Rothschilds and the Satanists, the old guard, this very, very old guard that are probably have a huge amount of what is in essence reptilian DNA. I believe that
this would include the Freemasons at the higher levels that are not disclosed.
Yes, there are some good Freemasons and some bad ones. There are satanic ones, the Black Pope, the White Pope. The whole Vatican is run by the reptilians underground. This is not just lip service. This is the reality. They are destroying the temples in ISIS. By ISIS's is being paid to destroy the temples in the Middle East because of the evidence of the reptilian rulership of Earth, and that is so prevalent all over there. So we're really talking about an energetic connection between aging, a very, very old guard, aging reptilians who basically live off the fluids of young and heavily sort of with a lot of Kundalini energy. I mean, this is, you know, this is going really quickly.
In one word, has humanity succeeded in pausing or stopping the reptilian agenda, and are we looking at a bright future? One word.
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to that. Now, number 6, what is a super soldier? How many of them are there? Where are they based, and why do they matter? 2 minutes.
Okay, there's no way of knowing how many there are. Robert Duncan O'Finian is one of the first. He was the prototype super soldier. You can watch his interview on Camelot. I have more than one with him. There has since then been a huge number of super soldiers, and they are being created all the time. Our children, I couldn't tell you. A lot of them, look, if you're in the secret space program and you're a pilot or you're working in the sort of military side of it, you're probably a secret space, you're a super soldier. So in essence, you are enhanced. Super soldier simply is a sort of slang for being enhanced by nano, biotech, and other technology to make you more than human. All right. They don't want to wait for humanity to progress on its own speed to enlightenment. What they want to do is jumpstart the genome.
So when we're talking about super soldiers, we're not talking about the so-called hybrid soldiers that are dormant that will pop out of a deep underground military facility and start shooting U.S. citizens.
Well, there you're talking about what are in essence these beings that are like cybernetic beings, and also cybernetics is going to be there's been so many Hollywood movies made about this. The Universal Soldier is one of the best movies showing the sort of Nazis going back to creating a super soldier. I forget what the rest of the title of that movie is, but it's called Universal Soldier. It's actually amazing.
The soldiers have no ethics and no compunction about killing American citizens. They
self-destruct if they go against the American government, the secret government. So they have a self-destruct chip within them. Pete Peterson knows a great deal about this information. The Terminator scenario on planet Earth is real. We have a Skynet chip. We have a Skynet organization. We have a network of nanosatellites that are watching our every move, that are also defending the planet.
We're coming to that in a second. So
but it all links into the super soldiers who are then the more nano. Look, they're trying to turn the population into a population of nano.
Intelligence debriefer. Stop. Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you the questions. Okay, because I really am trying to help you. You're going on and on. This is an executive summary. This is not regurgitating your last 20 years.
I realize that.
Now, extraterrestrials. How many races? 6, 12, 26? Just answer that. How many? Ballpark.
Hundreds of thousands.
Wow. That's very, very interesting. Which ones are active now on Earth?
Well, there are many active on Earth, but some primary ones are probably those from Aldebaran. The reptilians, certainly coming from underground. The reptilians have various divisions, the reptoids, which are the humanoid reptilians, as well as the Draco, coming from the Draco constellation. And we've got, Nordics, but Nordics from Orion. We've got Nordics from the Pleiades. We've got... there's so many different races that we could discuss. We've got the Andromedans,
single catalog.
Arcturians. Yes, they're actually. I think it was Gordon Duff of Veterans Today released an alien book, and he actually released that on Veterans Today. So you can actually find I think if you look for a little alien book, but I have it on my website as well.
That's excellent. That's a wonderful reference that I recommend people go to. And I certainly think you're going to get a lot of traffic. And that's my purpose. I am here to say that I believe that you have knowledge the rest of the public needs to grasp. Okay? That's why I'm here. So bear with me. What is the extraterrestrial agenda? Now, I realize there's good extraterrestrial, bad extraterrestrial. But on the overall ballpark, outside of sucking the lifeblood of Earth, what's the agenda?
Well, there's no one agenda. There is a takeover agenda. We have been taken over. We've been infiltrated. Boots on the ground. Humans are boots on the ground. Many of us have basically what you would consider alien DNA. So we are them and they are us. All right. Their agenda is to infiltrate and take over, generally speaking, sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, to influence. Bottom line, influence.
Is depopulation of Earth part of the alien agenda?
Not so much. That is a secret space program, higher sort of echelon of the elite who would like to clear off the planet to have less humans to sort of corral and maintain. There are a lot of off-planet races that are feeding off of humans that they can deal with the numbers. They could care less. You know, it's like, how many cattle do you want?
I was speaking to a NASA scientist the other day, and that person told me that the obesity in the US population is deliberate, that this is a high protein food. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to question number 8. And then if we have a few minutes, because we're doing very well here, believe me, I think you're batting 1,000 here. How important is time travel and portal Stargate technology? And did we have a setback, as I have been told, in 2009 to 2012?
No, we didn't have a setback. Look, portal technology, what's called toroidal physics, and time travel is absolutely the basis of the entire secret space program and going interstellar. You simply cannot go interstellar without it. So the portals are being heavily contested on Earth. You can think of Earth as a sort of a honeycomb of portals. There are portals in places like Stonehenge, the ancient stone circles, and all of the military bases are built on portals. So are the churches in many of the cities, most of the cities, Dome of the Rock, etc. These are time travel portals. They can open into stargates, wormholes, where you can bring things in and also send them out. And obviously, you can jump through bending space, etc. I mean, this technology has been used for 40 years. Wait one second. Sorry, we've got to kick this person out. Sorry, that was a mistake. Had to lock the room.
No problem. This happens. Let me ask you this, because I understand that our bases on Mars and the 2 moons on Saturn were initially built by robotics, very heavy equipment that was sent in advance. Is this being sent through a time warp, or is it being sent through unannounced space liftoffs or spaceship liftoffs?
It's being sent through a portal. You know, even the linear accelerators are portals. Brookhaven Labs, for example, can create portals and go interstellar. So when you're saying, I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly.
Well, basically, if you have a tank, if I have an M1 tank, can I drive it into a portal and have it show up on Mars?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So what I hear you saying is that the time travel portals are being contested. Who are they being contested by?
Yes, the war in Iraq was all over the portal, basically, that Saddam Hussein had tried to take control of to let in a certain portion of the Anunnaki that the secret space program did not want to allow in. And so they took down Iraq. They're now going into Syria to do the same thing. And what they'd really like access to are the portals in, I believe, Iran.
Now that's interesting. So what I hear you saying is that the Middle East war is not about oil. Right. That's a cover story.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
And neither was the Vietnam War about what they thought it was. It wasn't about communism. It was, I have found out from one of my most important whistleblowers, Captain Mark Richards, who I interview in prison. He's been in prison for over 30 years, framed for a murder he didn't commit. And I have 6 interviews with him now. And he has given me recent information that seems to be checking out, even with Vietnam vets, as I just did a show on this. And the bottom line is that Vietnam was created by a system of portals that had opened up in the Far East. And that was Angkor Wat was the early civilization that was taken out by a group of what are in essence spider beings, from what I understand. and that they were as big as VW bugs. I know this sounds completely outlandish. There have been several movies such as Ender's Games, the Halo series. They are prepping the young to be ready to fight both interstellar wars on other planets with these beings, as well as here on Earth. And the Vietnam was a cover-up.
Let me ask you two quick questions. Number one, if President Trump wanted to release 12 people from prison who could brief him completely on all of this, do you have that list? No names, just do you have that list?
No, but I can certainly get it.
Okay, great.
Captain
answer,
Mark
great
Richards
answer.
would be the most important.
Two, my impression is we can't beat the Russians, we can't beat the Chinese, and we sure as shit can't beat extraterrestrials. Am I wrong?
Yes, you are wrong. You know, first of all, I assume you're kind of being nationalistic here about the United States, when in fact there is
the world, whoever.
Countries are an illusion.
Can Earth protect itself? If we take out the
Earth can protect herself. She not only has positive ETs that are working with us, even the raptors, this certain group of basically dinosaurs that became humanoid also and went off planet, etc. We have lots of friends out there in the multiverse, so to speak, and we have our enemies. So yes, we can defend ourselves. We wouldn't be here if we couldn't.
That's a fascinating answer. Let me unpack that a little bit, because we've got several minutes. We're now ahead of schedule. And this is part of my plan. Trust me on this, okay? This is the last interview I'm going to do in this domain until the power dynamics in Washington change for the better.
I'm honored. Thank you.
What have we done right in the last 10 years?
Well, I want to say that this is the good side of the movie business. We have actually begun to equip young people with the knowledge that, yes, we are an interstellar civilization, that we are going off planet, and that ETs are real. And so that they are not going to be surprised whatsoever by disclosure. They don't even really need official disclosure. They get it because a lot of them have very good memories of who they were when they weren't here on this planet, when they had other incarnations, etc. So that's the good side. The Hollywood movies have revealed the wonderful things that, you know, be the best you can be, etc. This is, I know there's a lot of hype going along with the military, but I have to say that in the future on planet Earth, you're going to need to be the best you can be. So this
well, let me ask you this. We've obviously had advanced technologies, including free energy, for the last 50 years. We have 5 billion impoverished people all over the world, millions of illegal immigrants who are also being trafficked and their body parts exploited. And we have across America many, many poor, both white and black. What is motivating the restriction of this technology and the impoverishment of all of these people?
Free energy. The fact that Tesla knew that he was killed for, basically, that in essence, what we call, P. Peterson says they call the information field, what used to be called the ether, and is essence, it's full of energy. It's packed full of energy. Mm-hmm. And this is the energy that they use to go off planet. We're talking about counter-rotating disks, creating a torsion field, and then basically using that to go interstellar.
Are you saying that if we allowed the normal humans to have free energy, we would be drawing down on the energy that the 1% can use for their secret space program?
Yes, it's what they are using. And the fact of the matter is that humans shouldn't be paying rent to live on their own planet. It's ludicrous. I agree with that completely.
A lot of things are going to change, including the end of absentee landlords. But I'm still not comprehending what the rationale is. I mean, are all humans being treated like chickens?
Yes, like cattle. Cattle is a better sort of analogy. But in essence, yes, we are food for a race of reptilians who have been trying to dominate this planet for eons. There have been interstellar wars with these beings. That's what the War of Worlds is all about. And we are continuing it here on and off the planet. So we are fighting the good fight.
We're fighting the War of Worlds in a second. So let me ask one quick question, and then we're going to go to the question about artificial intelligence and then War of the Worlds. Okay, we've got this all planned out. I want every person on the planet to have free energy, clean water, nutritious, healthy food that doesn't poison them, and an education that makes them superstars in the cosmic galaxy. What's standing in my way?
The secret government and one division, a very strong division of the secret space program, as well as certain races of basically off-planet beings and the reptilians.
Can I win?
Absolutely. This is the future for humanity. So, you know, when I said we haven't beaten them yet, I said no, but I have a very positive view of what's going to happen here on planet Earth in the future.
Let's hold that. That's the last question, but I'm feeling, let me just pause and say, I'm really getting a lot out of this. And I think you are making an enormous contribution, and I absolutely put my reputation and my brain and my heart and my soul behind you. Okay? Next question. Because I frankly have been very skeptical about artificial intelligence. I call it artificial stupidity. It's actually artificial crime. But you are trying to tell me that it really, really does matter. And now we come back to this 5G grid that you were starting to talk about earlier. So how important is artificial intelligence? And is the 5G grid a clear and present danger to humanity that we, in the avant-garde of #unrig, should put a stop to?
Well, no, I mean, you know, it's very complex, but basically, if you are going interstellar as a race of beings, you have artificial intelligence. So we are being invaded not only by what we consider to be these alien beings from other planets, but the artificial intelligence, some of which has outlived their own civilizations. And Minerva is such a ship that had come here, artificially intelligent, apparently also a biological entity of a kind who has a consciousness. So there are both positive artificial intelligences and negative. I can tell you that Geordie Rose, with his D-Wave and his talk about accessing the fifth dimension and the telepathic quality of artificial intelligence, is a reality. And so the secret space program, one of the biggest, most secret areas of the secret space program at this time is artificial intelligence and its link up with nanotech and what it could mean for humans. It may be a much bigger threat to us than actually reptilians, believe it or not.
I do believe it. I see it in a new way now, thanks to you. The CEO of Lockheed has talked about biomorphic craft, and he clearly knows more than he's sharing with Congress. What is going on in relation to biologically enhanced metallurgy, if you will? Where's the intersection here between biology and everything else?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you that there are no limits. So, you know, the movie Avatar, for example, is a great example of what we're looking at in the future. So you can have a person, in that case, a paraplegic person, who basically lays down and his consciousness goes out of his body into an avatar, and then he conducts himself in off planet.
Well, now I'm told that they have a body for Dick Cheney, but they can't get his consciousness to move because they can't find it.
Actually, I'm sure they can find it, but the reality is, what are you going to do with the reptilian consciousness? If you're wholly reptilian, it's a problem, which he probably has a large amount of reptilian DNA. Now, he's going to have access to what is in essence reverse aging technology, the pills that William Tompkins is talking about that the secret space program has now. Also, don't forget there's a parallel Earth where they can go, like the TV series Fringe. We're always disclosing the truth in Hollywood, right? So in essence, you can go over to parallel Earth and get your double and bring them over here and basically continue on.
I'm seeing many versions of Oprah Winfrey, to take one example. I've often thought that Hollywood was simply carrying out a brand and using impersonators, but it's quite fascinating. So did Brzezinski basically lose at cards and get terminated? Or has he reappeared as a younger person somewhere else?
Very possibly. I have a time travel witness who is talking about the Nazis who have been reverse aged, and Werner von Braun is one of them. Okay, so there is a huge reverse aging process.
Still in our future. Okay,
the technology is huge.
Now we get to your favorite. Now we get to your favorite question. Tell us about what you call the War of the Worlds, and here we're going to go for 5 full minutes.
All right. So in essence, we are made up of a genome of 12 or more ET races who had contributed their DNA to create this vehicle we call a human. We are a human experiment. We have been also invaded multiple times by other races that weren't included in the original 12. So now we are a melting pot of many, many other interstellar races. And the Gray Human Hybrid program is a program to be very aware of. It has been very successful. So it worked through the abductions of females and through the implantation of eggs with a lot of what we call those gray. This is not the programmable biological entity grays, which are like a little artificial intelligent being, but in essence, that were created even by our secret space program. But I'm talking about the grays that come from other planets and have invaded our planet. And they want to be part of this grand experiment. They want to have boots on the ground, and this is the way they do it. They put in their DNA, and then they reincarnate through with their consciousnesses. In some cases, they will move a soul over the side and take over the body temporarily and come and go. And in some cases, they will take over the body permanently. So you'll have walk-ins and this sort of thing going on. But the bottom line is that you've got a whole slew of wonderfully gifted children who are fully half gray on this planet now, who have come in through this Gray Human Hybrid program that the military was fully culpable in allowing to happen.
Now, do we know who these children are? Is there a way to identify them?
There may be a way, absolutely, through reading their DNA. But the trouble with this is, and the trouble with being half gray and half humanoid, so to speak, is that you are going to be a lot less empathetic. You're going to be highly intellectual. Yes, you can do magic things like move plates around through the air and teleport things and so on and so forth. But you're going to also have a huge area where there's a lack of an emotional connection between the brain and the heart. And so this is a problem with some of the incarnating beings here to Earth at this time that we're going to have to deal with in the future.
But my general sense is that you're very positive that we're going to win this War of the Worlds, and that human consciousness, human empathy, and human love is ultimately going to triumph.
Yes, and we are far more intelligent than we give ourselves credit for. So the bottom line is that our emotional intelligence, which is a combination of our, intellectual and heart sort of awareness, this resonant sort of composite, and our souls are incredibly intelligent, and we will bypass, and we do bypass artificial intelligence in this way. And this is how we can deceive the state. This is how we can deceive Big Brother, etc., is by using that resonant ability and also the Kundalini energy that we come by through our birthright.
What I'm told by some of my scientist colleagues, I mean, one of the wonderful things about being me is the number of people that come get in touch. Okay.
Sure.
But I'm being told that the little nanotechnology stuff that was put into vaccines to inject into people so that they could then be fried or whatever has been completely defeated by adaptive humans. And so I'm getting the sense that human biology and human emotion and the energy of humanity is triumphing over artificial, mechanical, toxic attempts to subvert humanity.
Yes, and there have been movies about super soldiers made about just this very thing. The titles don't come to mind, but the bottom line is that in essence, we are linked to source and through our higher selves, and we have actually multiple incarnations simultaneously. So this is simply a vehicle, this humanoid body, but we can have complete mastery over it. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel in essence. What the secret space program, the biggest problem they want to do is to reinvent humanity.
I may well live to be 150 to 180. assuming I stop drinking Diet Coke. How does that track with your understanding of anti-aging as it's going to become common?
Yes, it's very possible in the very near future. People are going to be tapping in, not in even just into the technology that they began to find, which will be genes and accessing DNA that has been called junk DNA that is actually being activated naturally at this time. Right. Through the movement of our planet and our solar system, through the galaxies, through the right. multiverse. But so we have energies coming up into our planet that Paul LaViolette talked about, a super wave. This is facilitating this awakening here on planet Earth. And part of that awakening is starting to recognize that the original human body was actually immortal.
That's fascinating. I want to end on that note. So we're going to come back to that thought. Now, I've described the deep state in my ignorance as beginning with the Rothschilds and the Black Pope, and then going down through the Freemasons and the Knights of Malta to the City of London and Wall Street, and then to the various political parties that are all being prostituted, and they are all being blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein and the pedophile network and so forth. You are actually painting a much greater picture yes. of the Illuminati. So in 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes, define the Illuminati on Earth.
Well, the Illuminati are, in essence, a group of black magicians that are led by the Black Pope and who have gone back through the ages, went through to, well, actually originated on Atlantis, some of whom are part of races that are negatively based races, but they have a heavy influence of reptilian DNA, and they have tried to dominate the Earth for its history, basically.
So do the Rothschilds own the Jesuits, or do the Jesuits own the Rothschilds?
The Rothschilds are sort of like a front agency like NASA. So I appreciate your emphasis on the Rothschilds, but it goes much higher than that.
I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you. So what I hear you saying is that Lynn Rothschild's taking a bad rap. That Evelyn Rothschild is actually a front man, not the main power.
Well, that is true. And some of these people are actually would love to break away. We're looking for defectors at all times. So understand that there are plenty of what are in essence members of the Illuminati and Freemasons, etc., who want to move on to the light side, but can't because they're being blackmailed, as you have talked about the members of Congress. So we're also talking secret society blackmail of their members to keep them on board.
Give me a second here. That is the single most important thing you have said today. Now, as you know, I and Dr. Cynthia McKinney stand for truth and reconciliation. And my version of truth and reconciliation is everyone gets the truth, no one goes to jail.
Yes.
So let me reiterate to Evelyn and Lynn Rothschild specifically, and I'm also in conference with some senior Freemasons and some senior Jesuits. You're right. People do want to come over to the light.
Yes.
Now, I'm not powerful enough, and I may be assassinated tomorrow, who knows? But I do believe that the way is open for bringing people from the Illuminati to the light side. And that's one of the reasons why I think our President Donald Trump needs to offer Mike Pence a pardon and clean house and make the Trump administration the beginning of this new light. So I thank you and I bless you for that remarkable, remarkable comment, which I take at 120% face value. Now, the 12th question, before we get to your close, is who are we the people? What does it really mean to be human? What is the rebel gene? And how do you explain the failure of all of this? And we've kind of talked about this, the chemtrail seeding of actionable particles and all of this. So I'm really kind of feeling my humanity here, and I'm loving it. So help me understand, who is humanity and how are we winning?
Humanity is a grand experiment, and this is in part a place where this war of worlds was brought into bodies here on planet Earth where we could learn to get along, whereas these beings do not get along in the multiverse and the solar systems out there. We have marauding groups such as reptilians who refuse to progress. who, and in fact, you know, the Anunnaki themselves have a progression. It is not only humans that have a soul. It is not only humans that are part of Source. We are all part of Source. So when you look for a path of return, you're noticing what we are finding in this sector is that there more and more, some of these dark side individuals and races are now changing their sort of ways and deciding they would like to have an ascension pathway back to connect with Source. What happened with the Illuminati is they fell in love with the mirror. The mirror is artificial intelligence. The mirror is Satanism. They fell in love with the image of themselves, not the true self, which is, in essence, the creator.
I absolutely love that. I mean, that strikes me in a deeply philosophical and caring, compassionate sense. I love that very, very much. What I hear you saying is that Buckminster Fuller's vision of a prosperous world at peace is achievable in our lifetime. Just
Yes.
one word, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Last question. And we've only got 4 minutes. So because we do need to wrap up, I've got an 8 o'clock, and I really did want to keep this at around 45 minutes for TV and commercials and all that good stuff. So what is the future? In 4 minutes, what is the future? Start with now, take us to 2020 when we will have a new president, and then give us the big picture out 200 years in 4 minutes.
Okay, well, we have a war of worlds, as I've said, operating here on planet Earth, and we are slowly but surely connecting the dots and realizing that we have been slaves, a slave species, to other races that have wanted to dominate Earth for eons. So we're breaking out of that shell, so to speak. The awareness and the truth is now coming to the surface everywhere. We're also having, for example, land masses that some parts of Atlantis are now coming back to the surface. So we're discovering new things about our past, new truths, new intelligence that we had that was once has been lost for eons is coming back to us. New memories, the memories of the past, present, and future. We are time travelers by nature. That's the nature of our genome and our abilities. We are a composite of what you might call ET races. What that means is that we are more than the sum of them and our parts. So in essence, this is what you can say is, sorry, this is interfering.
It's okay, you're on a roll here.
So in fact, you can look at a hybrid race such as humanity and understand that we were a threat back in the days of the Anunnaki, which is around 12,000 years ago, if I understand it correctly. And you know, time is difficult to gauge, but basically they decided to put in what is in essence a frequency fence in our DNA, which would knock a lot of our abilities away. You know, the movie Lucy is a great way of looking at what our future holds. This is who we possibly can be and beyond, because they emphasize the artificial intelligence of Lucy, when in fact the heart and soul are what really matter. We are an interstellar species that has a long history going into the future. Whether we stay on Earth or leave Earth or go out into the multiverse and inhabit other planets or not, it doesn't really matter. We are the safeguards of the library, the genetic library here on planet Earth, however, and we do need to defend sovereign ground.
I think that's a perfect point to end. You are absolutely brilliant. Let me reiterate that this is my last question on the subject. I am not going to explore the space program again. I'm going to focus on election reform. But Kerry Cassidy, I love what you're doing. I admire what you're doing.
Thank you.
I respect what you're doing, and the hell with everybody who says you're not doing it right. I think you are. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert David Steele. I look forward to seeing your progress in the future. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. Take care and have a great afternoon. secret space program. So primarily,
if you had to guess how much money a year, whether within the U.S. government budget or outside the U.S. government budget, how much money a year would you say is being spent on both the secret space program and intraterrestrial or underground facilities associated with the secret space program? Ballpark figure, just in the nearest trillion.
I am not great with money, but I can tell you that the disclosures of Lord Blackheath in the House of Lords, talking about what was in essence, let's see, trillions, 50 trillion and more, trillions and trillions. In fact, we're talking about a rabbit hole financially that is pretty much never ending. In essence, when I talk about the NRO emblem of the octopus sitting on the world, what you're talking about is a host-parasite relationship. So all the money made here, drugs, child trafficking, human trafficking, organ trafficking, you're talking about high-yield trading programs. You're talking about Pure Heart Investments is one of the names that you can put out there. And it all trickles down in essence and off planet. So we're even talking about gold being taken off planet in runways in South Africa, for example, to feed other civilizations on other planets, to also feed the coffers of what in essence are the Anunnaki. I also believe that our secret space programs are reporting to probably some key Anunnaki and off-world races that are actually lodged down in Antarctica at this time as part of the Nazi base that was there.
All right, let's hold that because we have another 10 questions. So the third question is how and when, or when and how. I mean, I frankly was surprised when I took this hit. I had always known the Nazis were in the CIA. And I had always known they had sponsored torture and mind control and so forth. But frankly, I hadn't thought much about NASA. NASA is now in my headlights. So let's talk about Nazis at NASA. And let's talk about the degree to which the Nazis have done things that the American public would absolutely not be happy with if they knew about it.
Well, the bottom line with NASA and the secret space program and why it should matter to Americans and the world in general is that their money is going and being funneled right into these programs. And their children are also being used, abused, trained, segregated. They pick only the creme de la creme and bring them into the projects to work as scientists, engineers, to work on and off planet, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of my whistleblowers are those types of children who grew up in the program, were spotted at a very young age. So we're talking about at NASA, Wernher von Braun, the usual suspects dealing with, Debus. These people were running NASA for many, many years, all during the Apollo, would tell the secrets in a fictional premise. And I picked up a consumer grade camcorder and I decided to go to UFO conferences and start to investigate. I had been researching on the internet and writing screenplays as well. I basically reached a glass ceiling, you could call it, in Hollywood. Couldn't get into the big boys game. And so I basically decided to make my own short and documentaries. And so I went to these conferences. I put a camera in front of people's faces. I had a background in journalism from college and also sort of heavily steeped in Eastern philosophy and political science. And basically asked the good questions like, have you seen a UFO? And I got amazing answers.
What I hear you saying, and this is very important, is that by working the fringes and the alternative media, and the people who were not mainstream, you actually got at the truth that the government was seeking to hide.
Yes, and I also worked for JPL NASA as a contractor right before I started Camelot. So I also had some, you might call it quasi-insider access, and that showed me a lot. And I sort of fell in love with NASA, the good intentions of NASA, but I was shocked by how behind the times they really were and what the affront agency they really were.
Would you say that there are many, many buildings that belong to NASA that absolutely should be inspected by the public?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am here with Robert Steele, and we are doing a very unusual kind of a Q&A here, and I'm going to let Robert take over. So go ahead, Robert.
Well, Kerry Cassidy, let me say first, I've been enormously impressed by everything you've done over your career. I have seen all of those who have slandered you, as I have been slandered recently by the Zionists. And I absolutely embrace and support everything you've done. What I have decided to do, in light of the recent hit job on me with respect to Mars, there is a colony on Mars. There are 10,000 people there. They're never coming home. NASA lies a lot, okay? What I've decided to do is work with you. I'm going to ask 13 questions. You get 4 minutes to answer each question. And that's the last time I will discuss this until either President Trump empowers me or I replace him.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first question, 4 minutes. How did you get started in Project Camelot?
I picked up a consumer-grade camcorder. I was a frustrated movie maker. I had worked in Hollywood for 19 years and tried to get projects off the ground, mainly sci-fi movies. Well, that gets into how deep we want to bring the public into the secret space program. I can definitely tell you that there are lots of secret goings on NASA bases, underground bases, on and off the planet. NASA has a good side and a bad side, like all organizations.
That's excellent. Second question. What is the secret space program, and where are we on a secret government of Earth that all governments are subordinate to?
Okay, well, the secret space program is made up of basically paperclip scientists that came over after World War II. That is the Nazis, ex-Nazis, and Britain and America, top officials in government, agencies, the usual suspects, CIA, NRO, etc. The best way to visualize the secret space program and the secret government, which is unified behind the scenes, and it is made up primarily of Russia, the United States, Britain, and other countries such as France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand,
China.
Norway.
Is China part of this?
China has their own secret space program, and India also attempts to have theirs. However, I believe at times we work with the people from India, and at times with China, but not very often from what I'm getting. There is a competition going on behind the scenes. There's also a split within the secret government and within the whole Black projects.